Episode 6, show me your box. Okay, I assume you mean gearbox, so let's have a look at the gearbox that goes in this GT40 Mark 1. Box 1, how many gearboxes have you got? That's a cardboard box. Okay, I'll humour you. What's inside there? A black plastic bag. Let's see if you can fight your way into that, Watson. Looks like there's another box inside there. So what I need to do is get the chassis straight and level on the bench. I also need to get the engine straight and level on the bench, so I treated myself to a dual axis digital protractor. Found it on Tinternet, accurate to within 0.01 degrees. It's got a USB charger. I won't be plugging that into any sockets I own, I'll use my computer. Here's a good example of RTFM. If you don't know what that means, it means read the fucking manual, but we don't do that. Go on, just turn it on and see what happens. There we go. Nice display. Oh, it's going mental. Put it on the bench. So the bench is 0.67 degrees high with the bubble. You can just see the bubble there to the left. Bench is curling up a bit there, so let's try the other bit of bench. Oh, 0.1 degrees. Well, that's good. Put it on the chassis and that happened. That was more luck than judgment. Again, I haven't adjusted the chassis at all. That's good enough for me. It's got a magnetic base on it, so thought I'd put it on the engine and see how level that was. And it looks like it's 0.26 degrees high with the bubble to the left. Not bad. I'll adjust that. Seeing as it had the magnetic base on it, I thought I'd check down the line of the cylinders. So this is checking longitudinally. So the engine is slightly high and it's 0.234 degrees off level. Here we go, here's the gearbox. Oh, that's just another cardboard box. Yeah, okay. I see where you're going with this. Oh, bubble wrap. We like bubble wrap. I'll pop that later. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's shiny. What do we got here? So these are the two bolts that hold the bell housing to the bottom of the lower hoop of the chassis. They're going to go through the bosses. You can just see a boss there on the very far right of your screen, just checking the length there. The chassis is about an inch or so too low at the moment. I still haven't raised that, but I just thought I'd have a look at them. And they're going into those bosses there, which are slightly undersized at the moment, so I need to accurately make those holes bigger. This is the cross member that closes up the rear hoop of the chassis. It's removable, so you can get the engine and gearbox in as a complete unit. And I've got 4 pilot holes there. The 2 outer ones are used to reinforce the chassis, and the 2 inner ones are going to have metallastic bearings in them. So I've just got some old bolts lying around that I use to attach it. There will be aircraft quality bolts going in for final assembly, so let's put the cross member in. Oh, that was satisfying. Bolt it up then. Thank you. So, to summarise where the engine gearbox assembly is attached to the chassis, there's going to be 2 metallastic bearings in there, attached to 2 lugs on the upper part of the gearbox. The 2 lugs there on the lower bell housing, and we've got the 2 engine mounts as well. So, here we go. Gearbox. Oh, empty bench. Engine is in the chassis. Hurrah. And that's a very dusty box. It's a Fram oil filter, a PH8A apparently. That's been in the shed a few years. So again, while the engine was in there, I thought I'd take the opportunity to see what the fit of this is like. I've heard the space is quite tight around the oil filter. There will be a sandwich plate, I believe it's called, that will be between the oil filter and the engine block, which is like a pick-off point where you can feed pipes to go to a radiator to actually cool the oil in the engine, which I will be fitting. So I'm going to extend the oil filter out by about another inch, but I just thought I'd see how much space there is or isn't in there. The engine is at the moment about 4 or 5 inches too far forward, but yeah, it looks pretty tight in there. We'll have to see when I get the sandwich plate. So we've got these lower mounts for the bell housing, and I need to buy what's called a reamer to slightly enlarge those holes I showed you earlier. So I've got a Moore and Wright micrometer, zeroed it in, so it reads 0. And I just wanted to check what the diameter of these bolts were. It's got a little sort of clutch assembly on the back of the micrometer, so you can tighten it up with even sort of pressure. So what's the size of that? No, don't have a look yourself, show the camera. And then wait for the camera to zoom in correctly. So I make that 0.495 thousandths of an inch. Bang on size, so I'm going to use a 1/2 inch reamer to increase the size of those bosses so I can get the bolts in. Excellent. Box 4, here we go, gearbox. I know, cup of coffee, well, yeah, I'm okay with that. Lovely. Hang on, that's not a gearbox, it's not even a box, that's just a plastic bag that you're opening. I'm going to write a letter. Where's a pen? Give me a pen. I need a pen. So what's in here? Ah, that'll be the metalastic bearings for the upper cross member I showed you earlier. So they're going to have to go in there. I couldn't get the right size. They're 1/4 of an inch too short, and the inner diameter is 9/16 instead of 1/2 an inch. But sue me, I'm going to use these anyway. The other ones I just can't get hold of. They're just not available. Okay, here we go. Gearbox. Nope, that's just an. Where's some paper? I need some paper now. I've got a pen. I need to write a letter of complaint. Oh, it's a hand reamer. So after measuring those bolts, I ordered a 1/2 inch spiral flute hand reamer. There it is. Lovely. There's the spirals on the flutes when the camera decides to zoom in. So I'll be using that to open up the holes to put those bolts in. Do that a bit later. Excellent. Put it back, don't want to damage it. So, there's a dog bark in there somewhere. Box 6, surely, the gearbox, come on. Oh, well, at least it's a cardboard box. I'm still writing that letter though. Oh, don't cut yourself with that Stanley. So what have I ordered here? Must have been a late night order. Looks like a set of wine glasses to me. Oh, they're coming useful. Oh no, look out, it's Spiky Spike Thing Saga reappearing. What we've got here is a original C2, which I believe is 1962, 289 and early hypo aluminium front timing cover, not pitted. So this is the actual one that I'm going to use. So it only took 4 attempts before I get there. It's a bit dirty. I'll be cleaning those faces up and probably have a montage of me doing that at some point. I'm not going to do that now, but happy with that. And so if you want to check the engine number, then freeze frame it, but well, not the engine number, the actual part number. So early hypo 289. Lovely. Let's start reaming. Orange box. You're not even numbering them now. Oh well, it is orange. Reamer, wrench, 12mm drill, bolts that are going to go in the hole, little wooden piece of wood, cutting fluid, my reliable Crest drill. And so what's in the orange box? So it's a vernier caliper with a dial on it. Lovely. I have got a smaller digital one, but as always with those things, I haven't used it for about 3 years and the battery went flat. So I prefer to have the old analog system where it doesn't go flat ever. So what I'm doing is measuring the hole initially before putting the 12mm drill through. So once the camera decides it wants to focus, I make that 11.48 millimeters. Let's call it 11.5. So I need to take 0.5 millimeter off the diameter with this drill. So, a bit of lubrication. Notice the drill goes in actually, it's as if I've just missed a step and missed actually starting the drill off. Yeah, wait for that one. Anyway, here we go. Yep, pretty good. A little bit of smoke there, so the lube is doing its job. Just don't want to get any build-up of chips, so keep cleaning it. Keep putting the cutting fluid on there. And just keep going in. So what I'm actually doing before I start drilling is this moving in and out of the drill is to get the drill parallel with the hole, if you will. So I'm through now, that's good. Worked well. So I just thought I'd try the reamer. It should be a 12.2mm drill that should be used as the drill size prior to reaming. I've only got a 12, so as long as I can get the reamer in and get it to start widening the hole. The end of the reamer is tapered, so it's there's probably about an inch of taper before it hits the full diameter of a 1/2 inch. But yeah, that goes in okay, so I can live with that. I can feel it cutting. So yeah, I can start reaming that hole. I just thought I'd show the fact that the reamer has gone in. Here's the bolt. Shows how much of a taper there is, and the bolt won't go in. So that sort of proves there's a taper on the end of that reamer. So let's get the other side sorted out. As always, once you do it the first time, the second time is a darn sight quicker and easier. So no problems at all getting the 12mm drill through this side. Through we go. Again, a little bit of lube, make sure there's no pickup of swarf. Keep it all clear, and I'm just about to break through. And we're through. So then I sort of move the drill in and out, sort of almost sort of honing the hole, just in the hopes of just increasing it the diameter a little bit to get the reamer in. So I thought I'd just do the other side as well. So just make sure the hole's possibly just a little bit wider, give the reamer a chance to get in. So let's get reaming. So it's quite difficult to get it started, especially with the wrench. I could only rotate it about 90 degrees, but it was working quite well. I thought I'd show the swarf that comes off. They're sort of tiny splinters as it goes around. Then I realised, of course, I can move the chassis back and rotate the wrench 360 degrees, which speeded up the whole process. Oh, cup of coffee. There it is. And yeah, so it was going pretty well, pretty happy with it. The further that it went into the hole, the more stable it was. And eventually I got to the point where I thought I'd better slow down and see whether the bolt goes through. So you can kind of see the smoothness of the action there. I was also checking with my finger whether the actual reamer was poking through the other side, and it is. Not too much at the moment, but I just thought I'd show the sort of end of the whole process, because you can actually use the taper on the end to your advantage. So, pull out the reamer, let's try the bolt. Oh, it's going in. Now notice where I put my thumb. There. So I can then pull it out and just see how far through it is, and it's just about through actually. Anyway, let's try a little more. Just ream it a little more, very light pressure. So try it again, still not quite there. A little bit more cutting fluid. And at this point I felt the reamer just sort of almost break through. You can see it on the other side of the hoop there, just spinning round. So that is a ½ inch hole, I hope. So let's get the reamer out and see if the bolt fits. Oh, the tension. Oh, yes. Right, sort out the other one. So, always remember, after a good reaming, clean your tool and your drill. Both bolts in, great. Put a ruler on there. Chassis does have to come up a little bit, so it's about 1.25 inches. Thought I'd check longitudinally how level the chassis wasn't. That'll do for me. So I do need to raise the chassis. So, this is how I raise the chassis. I'll just show you the front there. Get a scissor jack, a little bit of wood. You can see the plank of wood, the front of the chassis is resting on to the left there. That's the one on the casters. And the packing there I've got on the left is going to be inserted once the chassis is raised. The only thing on the chassis is completely bare at the moment is a windscreen, I believe, and a few cardboard boxes. So that's how I can raise and lower the chassis. Great. Next. Expensive box. I hope this is the gearbox. We've been waiting long enough for it. Hooray! There it is. ZF-0 gearbox. Originally a Coletti was used in the prototype GT40s due to a miscommunication between ZF and Ford, and they were delivered a little bit late. The Coletti was great for 2 hours in a Formula 1 car, but 24 hours at Le Mans in 1965, it didn't really like it. I did contact ZF with the casting numbers, and although they couldn't confirm exact numbers, they could confirm that this was one of a batch that went over to the States in the 60s to be used on the GT40 development and the road cars. So I'm pretty happy with the provenance of it. $11,500, thank you very much. And this is my weekly exercise regime where I just turn the gearbox. There is oil in there, and so it just helps to keep all the gears lubricated. I do change the gears as well, just to make all the shafts have got some oil on them, but didn't show it there. So let's have a look at the casting numbers. There's 4 main castings. There's an end plate. Just have a look at that now. Number 135. Sort of intermediary casting going on as well. Number 135. That looks good. And the main casting, number 135. So again, it just says 5DS25. It's actually a -0. There are -1s and 2s available. Made in Germany. There's some gear ratios there, I believe, but I'll have to work out exactly what's going on, because there's also some gear ratios going on there, so I will work that out. The top plate does get taken off quite a bit, and this one is number 48, so somewhere along the line it's got swapped. You can also see the lugs where the cross members on the chassis are actually attaching the gearbox. There's the gear shifter. Later versions do have covers over them and serial numbers on the gearbox, but Dash Zeros didn't. And we have a 11 spline output shaft as well, if I eventually get the camera to look at it. So there it is, we finally got the gearbox. I have attached it to the bell housing and the engine outside of the chassis, and so the next job will be to put it on with the engine in the chassis, so I can see where those top lugs, where they are actually on the cross member. So let's celebrate. Cup of coffee. Superb. I think I'll push the boat out actually and have a couple of chocolate biscuits. Why not? These are the fastenings. Two of them locate into the bell housing, and I've just reversed the bolts into the correct direction, although they're the wrong way round. But there's the metallastic bearings, which will need to be sleeved, and they fit inside the cross member. So finally, after God knows how many minutes of my convoluted I'm showing you something else, we get to show the gearbox. So next episode we'll get the gearbox in with the engine and the chassis, see whether those lugs line up, and no doubt be doing other weird and strange things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. So editing can make anybody look good. Remember that hole that seemed to be already started? Here's the first go. Watch for the second go when the handle of the drill catches me right in the family planning.